It's not just one thing that makes you gain belly fat. Instead, it's multiple tiny daily habits done consistently that when added up cause significant weight gain around the belly. Today I'm sharing every single one of those 13 daily habits so you can start swapping them out and actually achieve your fat loss goal. Let's dive into it. My name's Autumn. I'm a certified clinical nutritionist with my master's in nutrition human performance. On my channel, I share the science-backed and delicious details on how to achieve your weight loss and wellness dreams. So if you're new here, make sure you subscribe. Today's video is also sponsored by Element, but more on them in a bit. Okay, the first habit is snacking. Snack foods are usually ultra-processed foods. This means they're high in sugar, high in processed fats, and high in refined carbohydrates. Studies have found that eating a lot of ultra-processed foods, like a lot of these snack foods, can cause us to eat about 800 extra calories per day. And even more specifically, these types of ultra-processed snack foods can cause us to increase our insulin resistance, which can lead to weight gain around the belly. So instead of snacking, I always recommend sticking to 3 full meals to optimize for fat loss. The second is staying up late. Poor sleep can cause hormone imbalances that lead to weight gain around the belly. Increased hunger hormone ghrelin is a really big one. This causes you to feel more hungry, but also specifically want to eat those snacky, refined, processed foods. Poor sleep and staying up late can also cause insulin resistance, which again can lead directly to weight gain around the belly. So it's really important that you set a bedtime and you actually stick to it. And you want that bedtime to actually allow for 8 hours of true sleep. So if you need to wake up at 8, plan on being asleep by 10, which means you probably really need to be starting your bedtime routine at 9 or 9:30. The third is drinking soda. Soda is very high in sugar, like absurdly high in sugar. And sugar-sweetened beverages like soda are strongly tied to weight gain around the belly. Specifically, it's been found to lead to more visceral fat, which is the even more dangerous type of belly fat. This type of belly fat increases your risk of type 2 diabetes and heart disease. So instead of soda, swap it out for pretty much anything else. Sparkling water, tea, coffee. If you need to have some type of like soda alternative, kombucha, or even some of those healthier soda alternatives are better, like Olipop. The fourth is comfort eating. This type of eating or snacking is the type of eating we do when we're feeling stressed. And typically people aren't comfort eating on like a steak. It's usually on refined and processed carbohydrates and sugars. And that's because these types of food release the feel-good hormone dopamine that lights up the reward center of our brain and can temporarily make us feel a little bit better. So think of things like macaroni and cheese or chips or cookies. So instead of reaching for these ultra processed foods in times of comfort, ideally we want to find ways to reduce stress that don't involve these foods. Walking outside, especially in a natural environment, is one of the best ways to go about that because it actually helps to lower the stress hormone cortisol. Calling a friend or family member is another excellent tool, especially if you can have that conversation in person, which tends to help us release more of that oxytocin feel-good hormone. And before we move on, I want to give a huge thank you to today's sponsor, Element. Element is an amazing electrolyte company that was specifically created with intermittent fasting, low carb eating, and whole food eating in mind. It actually contains the sodium, magnesium, and potassium to help replace lost electrolytes, all without having any sugar. I've been using Element for years now to help me feel my best. As a nutritionist, I know how important electrolytes are. And so when I'm taking Element, I feel more energized, I don't get muscle cramps, and I don't get headaches. But on top of that, Element makes it really easy to remember to take because it tastes so good without having any sugar. My all-time favorite flavor is their grapefruit salt. It is so refreshing, so delicious, but they also have a brand new limited release flavor, their lemonade salt, that is super good as well. Especially during the summer, it just hits the spot. And right now, Element is offering my viewers a free sample pack with any order. That's 8 single serve packets free with any Element order. It's a really great way to test out all 8 flavors, so you can get yours at drinkelement.com/autumn. It's only available through my link, so make sure to check out drinklmnt.com/autumn. The link is also in the description down below. Okay, the 5th daily habit is low fiber and low fermented food intake. Now there's some interesting studies showing that your gut bacteria can determine how or where you're going to gain weight as well. It can even determine what your cravings will be. And having poor microbiome diversity could be a contributing factor. What causes this low diversity in your gut is usually from eating a lot of processed foods and not having very many fermented foods and having a low fiber diet. Fermented foods help to provide the bacteria and fiber helps to feed that bacteria. So you need both in order to have that good balance. My all-time favorite high fiber foods include things like chia seeds, edible basil seeds, cacao nibs, raspberries, and artichoke hearts. And then amazing, great fermented foods include things like kefir and Greek yogurt, sauerkraut, and kimchi. In fact, you can try one of my high protein Greek yogurt bowls that is so good. I'll have that recipe linked right up here. Absolutely packed with both protein and probiotics. Okay, the 6th is being addicted to stress. There are so many stressors in our life, especially things that we don't consider to be stressors. For example, did you know that every time you get a notification on your phone, it can actually cause you to get a little spike of that stress hormone cortisol? And those are going off all day long, constantly checking your email, constantly watching the news, only choosing high intensity interval training workouts, or even just overtraining in general. All these add physical or emotional stressors to our body. And when we have too much cortisol, it can increase our insulin resistance, which again can lead to weight gain around the belly. So instead, wherever possible, try to slow down different areas of your life to reduce these stressors. Occasionally swap out some of those HIIT workouts for a low intensity walk, or minimize how much time you're watching TV, especially something like the news. Okay, number 7 is drinking sugary teas and coffee. This is the other main sugar sweetened beverage outside of energy drinks too, which really we should categorize into the same section because energy drinks are on a whole other level in terms of how much sugar it has. But even what can seem like a harmless vanilla latte can have between 30 to 50 grams or more of added sugar. That is on par with a lot of sodas. So instead, if you like to have something like a latte, have a traditional latte with regular whole milk. The whole milk is creamy and delicious as is, and whole fat dairy products have actually been found to be inversely associated with obesity, meaning that those who have whole fat dairy are less likely to be obese. Okay, number 8 is not walking very much. Studies have found that walking at least 8,300 steps per day significantly reduces your risk of obesity, and most people only get about 4,000 steps per day. Plus, walking can improve your insulin sensitivity, which is a huge factor for reducing belly fat. So something that can be really helpful is having a step tracker and seeing what your baseline is right now. If you're only at like 2,000 to 4,000 steps, try and hit that 8,300 steps per day. Or I found for a lot of people, hitting around 10,000 to 12,000 steps can be a good sweet spot. I'll put the step tracker that I personally use down in the description below. Okay, number 9 is watching TV or using your phone while eating. This can really promote mindless eating. We're more likely to eat quickly, to chew less, and quite honestly make worse mealtime decisions, all of which can promote weight gain as well as insulin resistance. Instead, eat without distractions. Enjoy your meal without your phone or eat with others, and make sure that you're not eating while on the phone. Which, speaking of, number 10 is not eating at home very much, or at least not preparing your own meals very much. When we eat more grab and go meals or restaurant meals, they tend to be higher in ultra processed foods, they tend to be lower in protein, and they tend to be higher in sugar or refined carbohydrates, all of which can promote overeating, muscle loss, a slower metabolism, and more likely to gain weight, especially around the belly. So instead, try prepping or eating more of your meals from home. It'll save you money and it makes it a lot easier to achieve your fat loss goal. And it does not have to be difficult, and in fact, you can make such tasty and delicious meals with minimal effort. I have a free 5-day high protein meal plan with breakfasts, lunches, and dinners. If you guys want to check that out, it's a great starting point. I'll have the link with the details down in the description below so you can grab that download. Okay, number 11 is eating low protein. Not eating enough protein makes you hungry. And when we're hungry, we're more likely to reach for something fast and easy, which means the foods that we're reaching for are high in sugar and refined carbohydrates. For example, that typical 3 p.m. energy slump when you feel like having a bit of chocolate. A good rule of thumb for most people is to aim for about 30 grams of complete protein at each meal, which again, my free 5-day high protein meal plan all has at least 30 grams of protein for each of the recipes, so it's a great starting point. Okay, number 12 is drinking alcohol daily. Drinking even just 1 drink a night can really start to add up in terms of weight gain around the belly, not only because drinking increases our insulin resistance, but it also lowers our sleep quality, which has its own negative impacts on weight gain around the belly. Plus, alcoholic drinks tend to have a lot of added sugar. So good rule of thumb, stick to no more than 2 to 3 drinks per week, especially when you're working towards a fat loss goal, and make sure that the drinks that you do choose are 0 added sugar. The ones that I usually recommend are dry farm wine, or if you're going to have like hard alcohol, making it something like a vodka soda with lime. Okay, number 13 is menopause. This isn't exactly a daily habit, but it's one that I feel like is important to discuss because it does impact somebody on the daily. Insulin resistance tends to go up when women experience menopause, which is one of the biggest contributing factors to weight gain around the belly. But it doesn't mean that you will gain weight around the belly once you hit menopause. However, it becomes even more important to make sure that you're applying these daily habits to make sure that you're not worsening the insulin resistance, or in fact, you're actually improving the insulin resistance and becoming more insulin sensitive to prevent weight gain around the belly. In fact, people in my community like Jeanette, who is in her 50s, lose significant weight, including around her belly, without counting calories or feeling hungry, which I actually got Jeanette to share her top tips for how she lost 47 pounds in her 50s. So if you want to check that video out, I'll have it linked right up here. Also, if you're new to my channel and you love this science-backed information, make sure you subscribe right here. Come out new videos every Tuesday and Thursday. All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in my next video.